We have the Team Go Rocket takeover in Pokemon Go, which means that we have the brand new shiny Shadow Machamp in Pokemon Go. So I figure right now is a great time to give us an update on best of the best for the fighting category. In specific, is Shadow Machamp going to be worth your time, energy, and resources to fight after to try to get a good one? Obviously, you can get the shiny, so should you go beyond if you do get the shiny early to try to get a good quality Shadow Machamp? We're going to check that out in this video today. All right, so fighting type category in Pokemon Go is a pretty good category because if we're looking at fighting types, they're going to be good and strong against Dark, Ice, Normal, Rock, and Steel. So we have a decent amount of Pokemon out there that are going to be pretty good. So with that said, let's start getting into the best of the best because we need to check out the entire fighting category, but most importantly, let's check out this Machamp. It's going to max out at 3455 with an attack value of 234, a defense of 159, and a stamina of 207, so a pretty evenly keeled and well thought out Pokemon. With 3 weaknesses as a fighting type category, which is going to be Psychic, Flying, and Fairy. And the premier moveset for Pokemon in the fighting category is pretty much Counter and Dynamic Punch. However, there are some new moves in here that are definitely going to have some impact, including Sacred Sword, which is going to be on some of the Pokemon we're going to check out, and we also have Aura Sphere as well. That's going to be on some of the Pokemon, or maybe just one of the Pokemon that we do check out. So with that said, let's check out DPS times TDO of the Shadow Machamp and the regular Machamp to see how much better it is and where does it sit in Pokemon Go. We have Counter and Dynamic Punch at 3330, so right off the bat, it's already looking really good. We have a bunch of other Shadow Machamps, even Karate Chop Dynamic Punch at 3108, which is not as strong as a meta attacker, and then the regular Machamp at Counter and Dynamic Punch is at 1851. So if we look at the difference between these two, this Pokemon in the Shadow is almost just about so close to being double as strong as is the regular, and that is just the power behind using Shadow Pokemon for the most part. There are a few instances where the attack values just aren't as high and the defense and stamina kind of get adjusted and it doesn't really work out for that Pokemon's favor, but usually that's not the case, and in this case, it's definitely not the case. That Shadow Pokemon is extremely strong. And just a reminder, we are going to check out the PvP rankings of fighting Pokemon in this video as well, so if you do want to skip, you're not a meta attacker, you don't do raid battles, you can check these timestamps below and get your guys self to wherever you want in the video. But now we're going to get into the DPS times TDO of the fighting type category in Pokemon Go and see where does this Shadow Machamp stack up against some of the other top fighting types in the game. At the top, we do have Mega Lucario at Counter and Aura Sphere at 8235, which is insane, but that Pokemon is not out yet. We also have 2 more other Pokemon that are not out yet, including Mega Heracross and Mega Blaziken, 5646 for the Heracross and the Blaziken at 5121. And then the first available non-Mega is actually going to be Double Kick and Sacred Sword at 4615. And I just did a test for you guys. You can actually TM Double Kick safely. It is not a legacy move, and it does get onto your Terrakion right now, which Terrakion typically being not as strong as a fighter in this game, and what once was an extremely strong Rock-type Pokemon has now made its way into the #1 fighting type spot in Pokemon Go, which is actually super crazy. And then right after it, we have Counter and Dynamic Punch on the Shadow Machamp, but that is 1,300 points below that Terrakion, which is crazy. Then we have Mega Gallade, Urshifu, neither of these are out yet. Shadow Hariyama comes in next at 2791, and then Mega Lopunny at 2612. And then if you guys want to go into the second page, you can see the Lucario, which is going to be at the top at 2480, Conkeldurr, and then Machamp at 1851, and the regular Conkeldurr at 2401. So guys, looking at these Pokemon, it's quite crazy to think that like the Shadow Machamp is so high, but even crazier to think that Terrakion, with the brand new moveset of that Double Kick, is now the #1 fighting type in the game, which is actually mind-blowing. I have been wanting to make this video updating you guys because I did see this stat a little while ago, but now is the perfect time for us to dive into this and just understand how powerful Terrakion actually is in Pokemon Go with Sacred Sword. But Sacred Sword is going to be a legacy moveset on this Pokemon, so you will have to Elite TM Sacred Sword in order for you to get this Pokemon because it was a raid only move and it came out for a limited time, and it seems like you can only catch it during raids, but you cannot regular TM if your Pokemon does not have this. So it's definitely something that I'm highly considering getting my Terrakion all the way over to a fighting type Pokemon instead of its rock type Pokemon. However, the Terrakion is going to be a fighting and a rock type Pokemon, which opens up a lot more weaknesses for this Pokemon. It's going to be weak to water, steel, psychic, ground, grass, fighting as well as fairy, and then the other resistances are a little bit more as well. But what would you guys say in Pokemon Go? Do you plan to Elite TM maybe it's one of your Terrakions if it does not have Sacred Sword on it to be one of the top fighting type counters? But the other thing we have to consider is that the Machamp is not a paid level 50 Pokemon. Pokemon, because if you think about it, it approximately costs $50, as I do tell you guys, to power up one of these Pokemon all the way to level 50. But at the same time, it's really strong, so maybe 1 or 2 Terrakion. But if you really want some budget counters, yes, the Shadows are much more expensive. Yes, you cannot have them as lucky Pokemon. However, there's more than enough XL candy because Machamp has been a Calm Day Pokemon, and you have been able to get that. It spawns in events, so 360 XL candy to be able to power up this Pokemon. The Stardust does cost more, but I think from a budget type counter, if you do not want to spend money on Pokemon Go and you much rather invest your time and grind, the Shadow Machamp is a very good alternative, especially because you can power up multiple of them without having to pay $50 per pop for the XL candy. So with that said, now let's get into the PvP Pokemon and see where does Machamp sit. In the Great League, it's actually going to be ranked 15. Machamp in the Great League is one of the strongest placings in this game for this Pokemon in PvP, which is kind of crazy because yes, it goes pretty high as far as an attacker standpoint, which then allows us to use this Pokemon as potentially a Master League Pokemon as well. It's not capped here, such as other ones like Machamp, which does beat it out, but it can't go anywhere after this league. And then also if we're looking at the Scrafty, which will beat it out at rank 10, but rank 15 is going to be the Machamp. It has to be the Shadow form at rank 15, which is a perfect opportunity for us to try to get it with Counter, Cross Chop, and Rock Slide. Any 100% IV is going to be a 0, 14, 11 for the PvP IVs here. And then in the Ultra League, it's not quite as high. It's going to be ranked 55 in the 7th spot overall in the Ultra League. And since all of these Swords of Justice have gotten it the double kick move, look at Cobalion in spot number 2 and Virizion in spot number 11 is insane. They have breached the top 10 virtually into Pokemon for this category in the Ultra League, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And not just for this category, they're just in the top 10 with double kick. That is insane. Wow, I'm really impressed by this new move, and maybe at some point, hopefully these Pokemon will come back. We can start talking about the entirety of these Swords of Justice. But the Machamp, honestly guys, like, it's still pretty good. However, it's not quite as good as the Great League, which I totally did not see coming. And the 100% PvP IVs for Ultra League are going to be a 0, 15, 14, which then leads us into the Master League. And in the Master League, it's quite significantly down there, all the way in spot number 92 overall. And if you guys do want to check out the first bolt, I mean, we have things like Buzzwole and other Pokemon in here that are breaching the top fighting type categories in this league, okay? So you have to consider that when going after this Machamp. And since Cross Chop is the recommended moveset, but Dynamic Punch is the recommended moveset as a meta attacker, you can't really multi-purpose this Pokemon as well as some of the other Pokemon, where an Outrage moveset on a Pokemon such as Zekrom could be the top tiered attacker for the moveset recommendation and also for the meta attacker. Unfortunately, the Machamp is not like that, so you would have to TM back and forth between these movesets, so not as optimal for the Master League, and there's better Pokemon that I would probably suggest checking out as opposed to this one. But once again, it is a budget counter, and it does not, I repeat, it does not cost $50 to power up. So what is my recommendation here? As far as budget counters, as meta attackers, the Machamp is really good. I do not have a level 51, however, I will be grinding the Rocket Leaders and trying my best to get one. So with that said, I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. To all my likers, comments, subscribers, Patreon members, everybody takes their support, subscription, and page to love and see you guys out in the next video. Peace.
I want to take this time to thank everybody who supports me in every facet. It means the world to me, and an extra special thank you to all my Patreons. I greatly appreciate the extra support to continue to allow me to pursue Pokemon Go full time, allowing me to create my daily video uploads in the most timely fashion for everyone's benefit. Plus, I get the amazing experience of sharing my creative processes behind the scenes and raiding all around the globe with select upper tiers. Thank you everybody for being a part of the Trainer Club. You all mean the absolute world to me, and I will see you guys out on the next video.